I'm making a very, very simple video here. And as you could guess by the title, it's why Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram are all screwed and why I think Tim Kuniskis returning is not going to save them. So, long story short, I've owned a bunch of these cars and I had my fun because fortunately enough, I owned all of these cars before basically anybody really understood what they actually were because they were so busy being badge whores and chasing after BMW, Mercedes, Audi, Range Rover, and whatnot. So the reality is, as good as these cars were, they were mostly discontinued during the final call. Some of them are being brought back. They're bringing back the Hemi engine, supposedly. They're bringing back the Hellcat engine, supposedly. But the reality is, times have changed. And there are reasons why I absolutely think that just because Tim Kuniskis has been brought back and put in charge of the product, that he's not going to be able to save them. So the first thing is the interest rates. Back in 2016, I bought my Hellcat for, what was it, $76,000 on the sticker, and it had an interest rate of 3%. Interest rates since past the pandemic of COVID have basically hovered far beyond that 3%. They're more like 7, 8, 9%. The issue ultimately comes down to the fact that anybody who would try to buy one of these cars, even with perfect credit, you can't get a 3%. And now you'd be paying pretty much damn near twice what I was paying for my car. And back then it was about $1,060 a month. And this was back in February 2016. Interest rates are ultimately set by the Federal Reserve. Now, I had to argue with somebody that, oh, yeah, interest rates are set by your credit. Yeah, well, I had excellent credit back then, and I was able to achieve the lowest interest rate, which was 3% or like 2.99. But the reality is now, even if you have excellent credit, you're facing interest rates that are much, much higher, and therefore the vehicle price is much, much higher. So the simple fact is, interest rates alone start to determine what the deal is going to look like simply because it costs you more money. Now, there are some people who will pay for these things in cash, but they're very, very far and few between. Most people are not paying for these things in cash. Most people are either financing them or leasing them. Leases at a 1% or 1.9 or 2, yeah, that can work. But the reality is the majority of these people are not leasing these cars because SRTs have traditionally had horrible leases. So what that means is that you got to finance it. You don't have the ability to finance as aggressively as Tesla does. So that means that you're going to be financing at higher interest rates. So when you factor in that 4 or 5% interest rate and you add that to an MSRP that's over $80,000, no, you're going to come up with something like $1,400 to $1,500 a month, and that becomes progressively and aggressively unaffordable. Jerome Powell's in control of interest rates. I consider him the real man in charge, not Trump. The Federal Reserve, to me, is like a government within a government. They do whatever they feel like doing. They literally control the value of America's money. And Trump can bitch and complain and moan and whine all he wants, but Jerome Powell is still sitting in that seat every single morning. The next factor to take into account is markups. And basically, I could say that it's the car's MSRP plus whatever market adjustment they want to put on the car. Recently, Chevy has just started putting their ZR1 on the showroom floors. And as you can see, markups are basically so high that they're actually exceeding the price of the car itself. There's also another car coming, the ZR1X, which is more powerful. And you can bet that buying one of those might cost you $500,000 if you're already saying that a ZR1 is going to cost you more than $250,000. These prices are absolutely obscene. But the problem is most of these manufacturers don't have control over dealer prices, nor do the corporations. So ultimately, customers will bitch, moan, whine, and complain, but they may not be able to do anything about it. Now, the Dodge dealerships have mostly been starving. The only thing I see when I pass most of these dealerships at this point are Jeeps and trucks. And that's like it. I don't see many cars. Now, I know out west there are dealerships where they have like cars sitting on the lots, but not over here. The problem that they have is that those last call editions sat on the lot for so long, you can't lease them anymore. So now you have no choice but to try to hope to finance them. So now the issue ultimately comes down for them that the dealer pipelines, from the factory onto the dealers is basically dried up. They have nothing to offer except for right now they have those electric Dodge Chargers that basically none of the Dodge buyers want. And then on top of that, most of the EV enthusiasts don't want them either because they've had so many negative issues with their 12-volt systems, breaking down and bricking for the most part. So the reality is when these new cars finally do arrive in either 2026 or 2027, you can bet that the markups on them are going to be outrageous. As far as I'm concerned, the future of the car market is either going to be boring cars or hopelessly unaffordable cars. It's one or the other, take your pick. But the reality is there's no way that you're going to be able to get these cars coming to you unless they're being shipped directly from the factory where there's not some ridiculous markup on them, or it's pushed so far out of your price range that you just can't afford it. I think back to during COVID when there were people who were putting down payments on cars that they were seeing, and then when interest rates were driven up by the Federal Reserve, they had no choice but to walk away from those down payments or get basically reimbursed in some cases. Some people never got reimbursed. But the reality is those interest rates and those dealer markups play a role in basically saying, yeah, you're not buying this. Car insurance. I'm pretty sure everybody already knows exactly what I'm about to say. Car insurance has risen dramatically over the past 10 years. When I bought my Hellcat, the insurance on it was only $315 a month. And when I say only $315 a month, even in retrospect, that was still high back for 2016. Now, if you take a look at insurance prices for those cars, you're talking about $500 or more. Car insurance prices have been aggressively rising, and I've heard numerous reasons for it. Some people say it's car theft has gone up. Some people say it's because of the cost of EVs and the cost to insure EVs, that EVs have caused car insurance to go up. The bottom line is car insurance prices have risen so high that in many cases, when you're looking at a new luxury car, you're looking at a car insurance premium that in some cases eclipses the price of the car. In other cases, the car insurance premium that you're quoted may be as high as a car note that you could basically buy another car for whatever you're paying for insurance. $600 perhaps on a car that you buy outright in cash, $600 a month. That's ridiculous. But the bottom line is you have no choice but to pay it if you plan on buying that car. Car insurance premiums are killing car deals. So even if you can somehow afford the lease, even if you can somehow afford the finance, in most cases, the car insurance is killing those deals. So long story short, I'm just going to say this. I do not trust dealers and I do not trust banks to do their fiduciary responsibility. They will sell you anything in order to make their commission each month. I do trust car insurance companies, and I do trust FICO scoring agencies. I myself have an 850 FICO score, so I can basically walk into any of these car dealers and get whatever I want as long as I'm willing to pay for it. Car insurance is going to do their due diligence based on your credit scores and based on your previous car history. What they're doing is they are measuring your behavior. That's ultimately what this comes down to. I always think about the fact that Americans are so quick to criticize China for having a social scoring system. And meanwhile, you come back to America, you've got Social Security, FICO scores, car insurance, and you have a bunch of other things measuring your own behavior. It's easier to point the finger outwards than it is to point the finger at yourself, I suppose. Long story short, they're measuring your behavior. If you've gotten into a bunch of accidents, yeah, your car insurance is going up. If your car insurance goes up to the point where you can't afford it anymore, then I guess you're taking the bus or the train or whatever it is, or maybe you're calling an Uber. Bottom line is, car insurance absolutely will kill these deals. Car insurance is based on your credit score to some extent, so they're basically testing your behavior for paying back the bills. They want to make sure they get paid, by the way. And then on top of that, they're also checking your behavior as a driver. So if you do things to screw up your insurance, don't be surprised when the car insurance quote is so high that you can't afford to get a loan.
2025, Trump presidency. Gas prices are lower than they've been in 4 years.
I'm going to combine gas prices with the cost of maintenance, such as oil changes and whatnot. But the simple fact of the matter is, I find it so amazing that they're, to some extent, celebrating gas prices being near lowest level in 4 years ahead of 4th of July. They're celebrating this when it specifically says the national average for a gallon of gas on Thursday stood at $3.16, which amounts to an nearly 10% decline from a year ago. Yeah, but you're still paying $3.16 for a gallon of regular unleaded. Anybody who remembers during COVID, without me having to pull up videos, during COVID, you could get premium gas for lower than $1.99. The last time I remember gas prices being that high was during 2009 when Obama was inaugurated. During COVID, you could get gas below $2 a gallon for premium unleaded. Here you're dealing with cars that only take premium unleaded. They don't take regular unleaded. If you put regular unleaded in these cars, you probably will damage those engines. And it's on you. And I don't think the warranty will cover that either. You have to pretty much use whatever's specified. The 5.7 liter Hemi demands mid-grade, and the 6.4 and 6.2 Hemis demand premium unleaded. The best premium unleaded, obviously, is 93. That ain't no $3.16. I could take you to a gas station right now and drive by and show you what the price of the average gas around here is, and you're really looking closer to $4. So while the gas national average may be down, the reality is, this kind of reminds me of what they say about if somebody's punching you in the face constantly. Like if you go to school every day and a bully punches you in the face, someday you might go to school and the bully comes in and instead of punching you in the face, he just gives you a slap on the cheek. And you say, oh, wow, I didn't get punched in the face today. Yeah, well, that's what gas prices are like. It's like getting punched in the face every time you stop at a pump. $3.16 is ridiculous. We should have better relations with our neighbors as far as countries go. Venezuelan oil is right there waiting to get pumped. There's lots of oil out there waiting to get pumped. Iran has oil, but we got sanctions on just about every damn body. So that's part of the reason why our gas prices are so high. You know, I don't hear them screaming drill, baby, drill anymore. I hear them really say, where those Epstein files at? But the simple fact of the matter is $3.16, that's high. I don't care what anybody says, that's high. And fortunately, I've moved on to electric vehicles like a whole lot of other people have done, which is part of the reason why gas prices are starting to decline. It's really coming down to supply and demand. You have more four-cylinder cars on the road. You have more electric vehicles on the road. You have more and more fuel-efficient measures that have been taken by these car manufacturers. And that is pretty much what's helping gas prices decline, because it certainly is not global politics. As you know, we damn near were basically in World War III, and we're literally bombing OPEC nations. So for the most part, gas prices are slightly down because we're probably using less of it, and we're probably getting more and more fuel efficient, which is a good thing. But the reality is, even at $3.16, that's high. I don't care what anybody says, that's high. So, yeah, you can celebrate that if you want. And what is this? It says Mississippi, the state with the nation's lowest prices, offers drivers an average gallon for $2.71. Well, I'll say it once again. During COVID, I was paying $1.99 for premium unleaded. And I was driving around like a madman at top speed, and I was having a great damn time because there was nobody on the road, and I was able to get from just about anywhere into Manhattan and out of Manhattan in 30 minutes flat. I was having a great damn time. Not anymore. So I say all that to say this. With these cars, gas prices are high. My Jeep SRT is 2015. It's paid off. It's just sitting there. I don't even drive it anymore because to me it's boring. But I keep it because there's no point in trading it in. But the long story short, every time you turn that damn thing on, that thing is getting like between 10 and 12 miles per gallon city. And I think the most I ever saw on the highway was about 14 miles per gallon. And that was under a light foot. But typically you don't drive those cars with a light foot, especially a Hellcat. A Hellcat, you're getting between 10 and 13 miles to a gallon. And most likely you're driving with a heavy foot. And even if you try to baby it, the thing is always idling because it has to keep itself activated. So maintenance costs have gone up. Those cars are not cheap at all to maintain. Front brake changes. Each rotor is $900. Each rotor. That's 2 rotors up front. Brake pads, $500. Even if you get like employee discount pricing, it's still over $300. The rear it's not as bad in the rear, but it's high in the rear too. When you have to change your coolant, high prices. Because you got to change, there's 2 different coolant reservoirs. Because you got to cool the Hellcat supercharger too. Oil changes, you're to what is $150? And now I know there's a lot of people, oh yeah, well I can do my own oil changes. Yeah, a lot of those people fuck up and seize their engines. I prefer to have the professionals do it. But, that leads me into the next thing I was going to talk about. While I was going to talk about the lack of really good service for these cars and the difficulty it is getting very good mechanics in these service centers, I think the more important thing to talk about is car theft. I live in a country that basically allows car thieves to get away with car theft. In some cases, people have been not only carjacked, but murdered in order to take their cars. Dealerships have had people break into the dealership, break into their safe, and literally steal their cars right out of the dealership. Homeowners have had to worry about parking these cars. You can park them in a garage and people will still break into your garage and steal them at gunpoint. People park these things on their lawn only to have somebody open their car using what are those things? Car fob repeaters or some type of computer accessory to break into their car. They can't trust that they can even leave these things on their damn lawn. Breaking in through the back window, I believe, doesn't cause the car to automatically start beeping its alarm. Or you had people who were using special coded receivers and transmitters in order to get into these cars. And as far as I know, Stellantis still hasn't dealt with that to this day. I do know at one point they had offered a small countermeasure, but it was something that was so simple to get past that it really didn't matter. So car theft is still a big problem. Nobody wants to buy something that you have to be afraid of parking it. Nobody wants to buy something that you can't be afraid to leave it in front of your house. Like right now, my Jeep SRT is sitting right in front of my house. But I live in a pretty decent neighborhood. A lot of these people don't, but they still want to drive luxury items like this. And for whatever reason, they think that they're immune. They think that they don't have to worry about dealing with car theft. For the most part, yeah, you do. And it's really sad. It's unfortunate, but this is what people have to deal with. And the question is, why should I buy from a company that doesn't look out for me?
Speed limit's 70 miles an hour. You're doing 104 coming up behind me. As of 3 minutes ago, it is now an arrestable offense to do in excess of 100 miles an hour in the state of Florida.
A man in Orange County caught driving 104 miles an hour just 2 minutes after a new law took effect. Officers all across Florida are now able to arrest drivers going more than 100 miles an hour. It's all part of the new super speeder law that went into effect on July 1st.
These states and municipalities ain't having it anymore. No more speeding, no more takeovers, no more loud exhaust. They have started passing laws that you can't fix or forget. They have started cracking down on things from window tints loud exhausts, especially street takeovers. That they were never playing with that. But with these new super speeder laws, as far as I'm concerned, they've basically declared war on anybody who has a performance car. So bottom line is, these cars are built with track performance in mind, but guess what? They ain't no tracks around here. Nobody's trying to take their car to no damn track. They have cameras everywhere. They're passing laws that allow the police to literally come right to your doorstep or even take your car and impound it as evidence based on the fact that they have caught you on camera speeding. And if they're saying that anything over 100 miles per hour is a super speeder, that's, just really unfortunate because, it's sad. Around here, the average people drive around 80 to 90 miles an hour, sometimes exceeding 100 to pass. And most of these cars, for the most part, can handle it. The problem is when you get these morons who take these cars, especially the ones who steal these cars, and then they start driving super fast, and then they're trying to run from the cops, they're trying to evade police and authority. They end up getting into accidents, fatal accidents. Well, the states are not having it anymore. All of you are on notice. All of you can lose your car to property forfeiture.
Number one, Honda, Toyota, Ford, nope, Dodge.
At the end of the day, Tim Kuniskis is a gifted CEO, but I think that the times are against him. Everything has changed since 2016, and a lot more has changed since these things originally started really coming out in like 2006, 2005. And I think it can't be underclaimed how deep a hole Carlos Tavares dug for the brand by forcing them in the electrification and hybridization in that direction. Ultimately, he needed to do it, and he was absolutely right to do it, even at the risk of alienating the audience, because times are changing. At this point, cars are going to end up being boring or hopelessly unaffordable. At this point, it looks like if Dodge does come back and they're not boring, they will be hopelessly unaffordable. And we'll just have to wait and see.